Time for unique service design with thread and paint. Today on Quilting Arts.
Bernina of America Incorporated. Bernina, made to create. BerninaUSA.com. Havel Sewing, when you need to cut it close. HavelSewing.com. eQuilter.com. WarmCompany.com. CoatesandClark.com.
Hi, I'm Pokey Bolton, and today on Quilting Arts, we're introducing some experimental concepts in service design using both thread and paint. Learning is a lifelong process in every endeavor, and especially in something as creative as quilting. Ellen and Eddy starts us out with a demonstration of free motion bobbin work with hand-dyed and metallic threads. Then, meet Marcia Durst, as she shows us resist dyeing techniques for unique fabrics and infinite color combinations. First is monoprinting with the resist process, and then overdye with a thickened dye. Finally, it's Lesson 2 with Anna Buzzolino and tips and tricks to make free motion machine quilting easier. So let's head to our machine and Ellen. Well, take a look at this absolutely beautiful quilt. You might notice that it's got a lot of thick threads in it, and it's so vibrant, and it's made by artist Ellen and Eddy, who's with us today. Welcome.
Thank you.
I am so glad to have you here because you are just famous for your bobbin work. And it's such a mystery to so many people on how to actually do bobbin work. So you're going to demystify that for us today.
I'm going to demystify it for you.
Well, let's talk about threads and things and what you need to do bobbin work.
Bobbin work is like looking through a slide backwards. It's a dyslexic dream.
Okay.
Dyslexia helps seriously. Dyslexia is an art form. But what we're going to be working with is some very great thick threads. And then we're going to use thinner threads on the top, and we're going to stitch from the back.
Okay.
And that's always scary until you realize that your pattern is right there.
So you're putting the thick threads in your bobbin.
The thick threads go in the bobbin, and the thin threads go on the top, and you stitch upside down.
Now, is there any trick to the bobbin case and what
Absolutely.
you need to do?
What you do, you can buy a bobbin case that'll have everything it needs, but also if you have a bobbin case, and this is true for every machine has a bobbin mechanism, there's a little screw on the side, and you want to turn it about 3/4 of a turn, lefty-loosey.
Lefty-loosey, so you're opening it up a little bit.
Right, so it makes space for that thread, and then you want to save that bobbin case, so you put a drop of nail polish on it, or you mark it.
So it's a designated
It's a
bobbin work
designated
case.
one, because there's only so many times that screw is going to do the job.
Okay, good to know. So you prepare your bobbin case, you've got your thread. What else do we need to be thinking about?
You'll want a pattern. And I took a pattern here that I printed on a fusible interfacing.
Okay, it's pretty stiff interfacing, it seems.
It's pretty stiff. And then I did a sandwich, stabilizer sandwich. I've got my fabric, I've got felt, and I've got my stabilizer.
Now, something else to think about when you're doing bobbin work is the kind of needles that you're going to use.
I use a 90 top stitching needle, and that's a great big needle with a sharp point and a big eye.
A big eye.
And I use this for all embroidery, not just for this. But that big eye keeps you from breaking thread.
And do you use a fresh needle every time?
New day, new needle, new project, new needle. How much hair do you really want to pull out?
Not much.
Not much.
No.
I can't do that. Not anymore.
So you have your design on the heavy-duty fusible interfacing.
Right, and then I've zoned my design, so I know what I'm doing. Now,
So this is your color cheat sheet.
This is my colors cheat sheet. Personally, I probably wouldn't do that, but I do it for students sometimes because
If you're new to
you
this, you
want to
need
think
that.
about your colors, and what we're going to do is we're going to mix our thread to make our color, which is very great fun. So on the bottom, here are the cool threads that are going to make that color for me. In order.
Okay, so you start with the green, then the purple.
And the last color is going to be the color you're going to see the most of.
Good to know. Okay.
So whatever you put on last, you better like it best.
So you started to work on that butterfly here.
This little guy is in process. I want you to see how he looks while I'm working on him. As you can see, I don't have any mysteries here. I'm literally coloring. It's not hard.
So it's face down in the hoop, face down in the
hoop,
machine.
And the hoop is going to keep it from going down the rabbit hole into the bobbin case.
Okay, that's never fun.
That's never, you always want to pass on that. And you can see that I'm working with a straight stitch only.
Okay.
With thick thread, you always want to use a straight stitch.
Good to know.
You can sew your needle plate to your piece if you have an over-exuberant moment.
That's a good point. Well, let's go ahead and hoop this up and take it to the machine.
This is ready to go, and this hoop just lies on it. It weighs it. It's heavy.
Oh, okay.
Which makes my life simpler. And I'm all ready here. I've got, now whatever color I have in the top, I need to either match it or I need to like it.
Well, I have a question. How do you get the threads into the bobbin?
Winding threads.
Is there a trick to it?
No, it's very simple. Well, there is one small trick to it.
So you just wind it like you set up your machine?
Regular bobbin case, regular bobbin. All I'm going to do here is wind that around, and I am about to be my thread tension.
Oh, okay, so you do it manually.
So I'm my thread tension.
And is that the trick?
That's the trick.
And why do you do it, do it manually versus through the machine?
Because I don't want to unthread and rethread and unthread and rethread.
Okay.
I'm not going to live that long. And I am going to use sewer's aid because that's going to make my life work much better. That makes my thread stronger. It's a silicone treatment.
Okay. So you just dab that onto the top spool?
Right onto the top. You just squirt it on. I have my machine set for a straight stitch.
Now I noticed that you have an open-toed free motion foot.
Always a good idea because you never know when you're going to get caught. And I'm going to, you can see where I've done my stitching out with my first color. I'm going to just add colors on top of that.
So the thick thread's in the bobbin, the lighter thread's on the top.
And we're just coloring with thread.
And you've got the same color of the thread.
Actually, I've got the same color thread as my zone.
Okay.
I've got a purple thread here instead of my green, but I don't mind seeing that green. I need to either match that color on the top or I need to like it.
Now, do you have to play with the thread tension at all between the top and the bottom when you've got such a thick thread in the bobbin?
It's not a bad idea to hedge that up just a tiny bit if you're working from the bobbin.
Okay.
You want it to pull a little to the back, and the back is the top.
So you're going to...
So I did that. I just hedged that up just to have the number.
Okay.
And I'm going to start to stitch. I'm working with a straight stitch. And what I'm doing here is just coloring in.
So does it matter if you use a polyester thread at the top with such a thick thread or cotton or?
I like polyester. It's strong. It's got really good habits. When you're done stitching, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to raise your foot and raise your needle. Pull it away. Put your needle back in. Put it back out again, and then you can pull up from the bottom.
Okay, that's how you get your bobbin thread up.
And that's how you get your bobbin thread up.
Wow. So let's take a look at that. Nicely done. So tell us the portion that you just did.
This is that purple part right there.
Wow, that is beautiful. And so you would keep layering in that color succession that you had discussed?
Let me show you where we went. That was the bottom color session. The top one adds that to it and another purple. So there we are in relation to that.
That is just so beautiful. And so you would add the second color and the third color until
you
shaded
have
it all
that
the way
all done.
around.
Then I want to show you doing an eye because those are different. We're going to do those with a regular bobbin case.
Okay.
And it's super thin thread. I've got this great flat tinsel thread. And I think that's going to make a beautiful eye for that. We have choices. Do you want gold or purple?
Let's go for gold.
Okay, gold it is.
I think gold will look contrast nicely against that background fabric.
And now I'm going to use the regular bobbin case for this. I've got an adjusted bobbin case in the machine right now. This is a thin thread, so we want to treat it as if it were a thin thread. And even as it is, it's going to pull a little bit to the back. But that's okay because no one gets to be on the inside of my quilt. If they're in there, they need to be squished out immediately. Yes. So I'm going to, because I'm working with a thin thread, I can work with a zigzag stitch. This is still bobbin work, but it's...
And it's free motion work.
And it's free motion work. Now, this is one of those things where a little dab will do you. You don't want to overdo. So we want a little bit narrower zigzag than we might ordinarily. And I'm going to do just a little rondelle of color. And again, the same trick with putting the foot up, putting the needle up, back away, needle down, needle up.
To pull up the bobbin thread?
Pull up the bobbin thread and tie it away. I could just nip them, but you never nip them so closely that you never see them.
And so the trick with the eye is to do the zigzag stitch with a thinner thread?
Yep. And there you go. And because that thin thread is so shiny, you can see what it does for an eye. It's wonderful. And on this one, you can see where I've gone in and put in a second color. That's my iridescent
the emerald
spark.
So, so beautiful. Well, I'd love to show off some of your other quilts.
Sure.
This is beautiful. Tell us about this one briefly.
Now, this was not done on a sandwich. This was done in the piece. It's an earlier piece. It's done with hand-dyed threads. I just showed you metallics, but these are what hand-dyed pearl cottons look like, and those are also equally workable.
Well, let's talk about just real quickly how you would take a piece like this, a motif that was done on the heavy interfacing, and how would you quilt that? How would you get that on the quilt?
We're going to use a zigzag free motion. I'm going to use a black thread because that's going to create a nice firm edge.
And that's what you've done in this
And
quilt
that's what
here.
I've done with him, because you want to do his legs separately.
Oh, on the quilt.
Thin ankles are pretty on bugs too.
And I love the spider.
Now this is so fun because it's bobbin work with both thin and thick thread. This is
on the quilt
again
as
that
well.
Flat tinsel thread. It's very fragile and breaks.
This has been so much fun, Ellen. We're going to have a lot more information